Good morning, and a very, very, very warm welcome to all our friends who are watching Book Bazaar today. It's a fabulous Saturday morning, as always. And what is lovely is that we're back with season 2 of the Book Bazaar. It makes us all feel like we're some Hollywood stars or Bollywood stars when we announced this season 2, but really it's been utterly and absolutely delightful. It's an utterly and absolutely delightful feeling to be back in front of you. All over again. We've missed it. We've missed the buzz. We've missed the action. We've missed the excitement of the bazaar. And we can't wait to be chit chatting and interacting with all our lovely friends, all our lovely friends out there. I can see Joanne Saldana saying, hey, funkies, good to be back to my Saturday morning fix. Joanne, I thought you might not be able to make it. I'm so glad you're here because we're going to do a small reveal in a bit, which we have to thank you for entirely. But yes, before we get started with everything, a very, very happy new year to all of you watching us this Saturday morning. And, lots of happy new books to introduce you to in this season of Book Bazaar. Bindya Parwani, you're saying, good morning, Funky Rainbow. Eager to meet all of you. Excited to meet today's guest, Meera Iyer. I'm completely Bangalorean. We are so delighted to hear that this morning. Of course, we had to start off season 2 with, with a really exciting collection of books, and there were a lot of interesting days, that lined themselves up around this, around the 23rd. Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, very, very warm welcome to you. You're saying, so wonderful to see FR. Absolutely a pleasure to see you as well. My entire team says hello, a big hello to all of you. The thing is, like I said, there are some fabulous, there were some fabulous days that sort of presented themselves around the 23rd. One of them, of course, all of you know of, is Republic Day, which is on the 26th of January. But there was also National Tourism Day on the 25th of January. And we thought, what better way to celebrate season 2, the start of season 2 of the bazaar and these exciting days, but to take you through, to all over India through children's books. Avyukt and Ameya Nair, Happy New Year to you and to everyone at home. It's such a pleasure. Even this morning when we started off, Muttama auntie was saying, can we say a big shout out and hello to Avyukt and Ameya Nair? So here goes that big hello and shout out to you. So, like I said, books that, take you through the states of, India and the Union Territories of India. That is 28 states and 7 Union Territories. It's going to be quite hard to recommend 35 books in the course of this chatty show. So we will do as many as we can. But the remarkable thing is that there are books and more books that are, based and set in the different states and union territories of India. It was so exciting for us as a team to look through each and every book in our collection again, to put them into, to break them up into, books that are set in the different places and different cities, towns, and villages of India. Like I said, all of them, all the books, not just the ones that we're recommending over here, all the books are up, on our site. So as always, you need to go to www.funkyrainbow.com. There is a tab called the Book Bazaar, the Bazaar. Click on it and come to India through books, and all the books that are set in the different places, states, cities of India up there. And I'm sure as we go by this year, we're going to be adding a lot more of them into it. I mean, it's a wonderful way to introduce children to places that they are familiar with. We often, I mean, and we know we say this so many times when we're talking to teachers, when we're talking to librarians, when we're talking to, parents, that children need to recognize, familiar people, familiar places. They need to recognize themselves in the books that they read. And that's why Funky Rainbow really champions Indian children's books. And, it's just marvelous that children living in any state, any place, any union territory of India, they do have books, in which they can recognize familiar places, sights, sounds, smells, people. So that's that's the marvel and beauty of in Vijay Lakshmi Nagraj says, hello team FR, I've dropped everything to sit down and watch this bazaar. How I missed your Saturday morning bazaars. Cheers to your effort and happy to be here. What a wonderful message, Vijay. Thank you so much for being a great Funky Rainbow champion. Always, we've missed all of you, every single one of us. The Saturday that after the 19th of December, the Saturday after, everybody was a huge grouch at the office. Nobody was grinning. Nobody was running around doing anything. Everybody was scowling and sulking, getting on each other's nerves, as Muttama says. And we can't tell you, we're glad to be back to smiling and glad for the pressure, the little things that need to be done before a bazaar is, before a bazaar gets off the ground. Of course, as I started, I said, we're trying to do, many new things in the bazaar, and we will across the next couple of weeks, in this season of the bazaar. We do plan to introduce you to many things, the first of which I am going to very quickly show you just right now. And like I said, we have that wonderful reader of books, that lovely librarian, and that great book champion, Joanne Saldana, to thank for this suggestion that she gave to us. Yay! I'm going to open it and I am going to show you that here we have a funky rainbow mug. It is custom created illustration by the one and only Grace Stroke, and we will put up pictures of the mug and put it up as a product on our website. But this is for all of you who'd like to drink chai or coffee with us at the bazaar every Saturday, and all of you who are book champions. Like I said, Grace Stroke has a terrific Grace Stroke style illustration, done for this mug. And, so there goes Joanne Saldana. Our cup of joy is here. And thank you so much for making that suggestion. Like I said, across the next couple of weeks, more and more such reveals. I can see Vijay Lakshmi Nagraj saying, wow, I want it for sure. We're going to put it up on our website next week. We just got one sample of the mug, and the rest of them are going to be up for sale on our website this week. Joanne Saldana saying, oh, I love it. Put me on the order list. Yes, yay. That sounds just wonderful. So yes, like I said, more such surprises coming your way across the next couple of bazaars. So once again, with a very, very warm welcome to all of you, and, with a lot of hope and a lot of happiness in our heart, we get started with season 2 of Funky Rainbow's Book Bazaar. Like I said, we're going to, we're going to talk about books that are set in the states of India, and I'm going to for not knowing how to order them, we've just chosen an alphabetical order, which makes it easier. So the first state that I'm going to start off with is Andhra Pradesh. And the book that we're recommending to you from Andhra Pradesh is this marvelous little book called A Kite Called Korika, written by Sharda Kolluru and illustrated by K.P. Muralidharan. What I particularly love about A Kite Called Korika, and this one is set in a little village called Pammidi in Andhra Pradesh. Just, and right through the bazaar, I'm going to try and point you to the things that make it so local, make this book so local. The fact is that, it's the story of a young boy called Yellaya, who is 9 years old and who lives in a village called Pammidi in Andhra Pradesh. He says, I walk to school, which is far from my house. The Penna River flows flows through our village singing Gala Gala Sala Sala. My parents are farmers and they work in a paddy fields. The green crops look greener when the rain falls, and those crops, they sing and dance Thai Taka, Thai Taka. This book, what a lovely, a beautiful evocation of life in a little village in Andhra Pradesh. So what is the story about? And so relevant to our times when our farmers are protesting, in Delhi. This is the story of a little village where the monsoon has failed in that particular year and everything is dry and dusty. And Yellaya is sitting under a very shriveled peepal tree. And, there's another old woman in the village called Rajamma, and they're looking up at the sky, wishing and wishing that it's going to rain soon. And the thing is, in a bit, they see a little black dot appear up in the sky. What is that? It is a kite, the kite that you can see in the cover. But what is special about the kite? Well, it is a wish-fulfilling kite. Thank God for that, really. So what are the wishes that the villagers have? What are the wishes that Yellaya has for his, for himself, for his village? They make up this charming story, and really the thing that sets it so magnificently in Andhra Pradesh is the fact that the language, it absolutely echoes the vitality of Telugu, of the Telugu language, the speech of the Telugu language, and all these sounds. Like I was reading out to you, tai taka, and then there's like Rajamma drives some flies away with a dirty cloth. It's just the kind of sounds. Something goes gada 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 gada, something goes dugu 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 dugu. Beautiful book, lovely illustrations. We would recommend it for 6+-year-olds. And this one, published by Tulika, is priced at 175 rupees. From Andhra Pradesh, we move on to Arunachal Pradesh. Like I said, alphabetical, just easiest for us to ensure that all states get covered that way. And our book from Arunachal Pradesh is this lovely one by that magnificent writer, Mamang Dai. She's really a champion for the Northeast, especially for the state that she comes from. And I do know Vijay actually knows Mamang Dai quite well. And we're hoping sometime this year we can have her on our show. What is Once Upon a Moon Time all about? Stories that have been written by Mamang Dai and art by Nimret Handa. It is stories from the magical world of Arunachal Pradesh. So it's a clutch of stories. There are 4 of them, I think, in the book. Yes, 4 of them about 2 brothers who create a fantasy world, about a river that really meanders over a mountain, about a dove that can hum a beautiful lullaby, and of course, because naughtiness needs to be there in all books, a wayward sun that's trying to scorch the earth down. The thing is, it's the landscape of Arunachal Pradesh is evoked in literally every story. There are the names of the characters. For instance, in the story about how the world was created, there are two brothers, and unique and matchless brothers, they say, called Lopong Rimbuche and his younger brother Chom Dande. You can see, even the way the landscape is evinced, the mountains, the illustrations by Nimret Handa, light pastel illustrations, beautifully evoking the landscape, the creatures. And we know that the Northeast is lush and beautiful. Arunachal Pradesh, perhaps one of our greenest states. That magic is brought out in the illustrations and the fantasy stories in this collection. Just absolutely lovely. Vijay says, my senior in school, we have to go there. Yes, really, Vijay, that was the plan last year. It would simply be marvelous to host a bazaar right from somewhere in Arunachal Pradesh someday, sometime, very soon, I hope, really. So this one, Once Upon a Moon Time, published by Katha and priced at 120 rupees. As you can see, text and fairly big point size. So it's not a difficult book to read at all. We would recommend it for 5+-year-olds, or say even 6+-year-olds if they're reading themselves. But parents can read these magical tales to anyone, even to younger children. From Arunachal Pradesh, we move to Assam. And what do we have for you from Assam? This lovely book called Run, Ranga, Run. Of course, you know what? It's got to be the rhino. It's got to be the rhino in Assam. It's got to be for us at Team Funky Rainbow, because some years ago, thanks to Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj, we made a trip right to Meghalaya and Assam, meeting children from different schools. And as a treat, at the end of that long trip and 17, 18 sessions, she took us to Kaziranga. So, of course, the story that we would choose this morning for Assam would be one that's set in Kaziranga with the magnificent rhinoceros, many of which, many of these rhinos we saw there while going on this fantastic elephant ride. In fact, I wish we had pulled out some photographs of all of us going rhino watching, at Kaziranga. Now, what is the story of Run, Ranga, Run all about? Well, Ranga is a baby rhino who loves to wallow in the mud and play with her mother. Now, her mother is a graceful, stately, elegant rhino, and always keeping a watchful eye out both for Ranga, and her brother. And she doesn't want, whom she loves very, very much, but whom she secretly wishes, she wishes her kids were not so sloppy. Joanne saying, I love this book. It's a book that deeply touches a few of my students in a way that I haven't seen before. That is just marvelous, Joanne. I mean, that's the effect and impact that we want these books to have on our youngest readers. It's a beautiful story written by Geeta Dharmarajan herself, the founder of Katha, and illustrated by Shrivi. It's such a wonderful story of family, of bonding, and these emotions, these sentiments, they remain the same across the entire animal kingdom. And it's there's a lot of funny things about, like, little Ranga trying to stand up and the mum gently nudging her to stand up. Such lovely emotions expressed right through the story. That is indeed set in one of India's most marvelous, in national parks, the Kaziranga National Park. And as in most Katha books, a little bit of information about the rhinoceros, about Kaziranga, tucked away into the into the pages, the last pages of the book. Really, it's a story that would work. Again, we would recommend it, for children who are reading independently at 5 plus, even, oh, there it is. Sham has managed to locate one of the photographs that Aaron Sham Clark took of, a rhino right there in Kaziranga. And you can see how thrilled we were, full grown adults with a couple of children. Muttama's daughter was there as well, all as excited and totally thrilled the way the kids were to see so many rhinos sloshing around there in the water, in the marshy waters of Kaziranga. So this one, a lovely book from Assam, again published by Katha, and priced at 120 rupees. From Assam, oh, yes, more pictures of Kaziranga. And these are buffaloes in the water. What a lovely life, really. It was really a marvelous trip, and it's a wonderful opportunity to say thank you to Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj, for facilitating this fantastic trip for all of us. Ramendra Kumar, welcome. Good morning. Lovely to see you here at our book bazaar. And, that was indeed amazing. No photograph ever doing justice to what you see in front of your eyes, but yet some marvelous photos taken by all the young people who accompanied us on that trip. From Assam, we move to Bihar, to the state of Bihar. And it is often, when we think of Bihar, the first thing that comes to mind is the absolute lawlessness of that state, perhaps. Really, Muttama is glaring at me because it's a state really dear to her heart. It is, but images on news channels and media always portraying a picture of sort of utter lawlessness, but from that state. Shantanu Datta Gupta, hello and happy new year to the gang. A very, very happy new year to you, sir, and delighted to see you here at the bazaar this morning. Happy new year to you, and a lot of happy new books from Scholastic, I hope. To come back to Bihar, really, like I said, from that state has emerged this fantastic art form, the Mithila art form. And I know how many of us have seen works of art, all around us. You could travel to any exhibition, any craft mela in your city or somewhere else, perhaps maybe at Delhi Heart, and you will see so much Mithila painting, which, just available up there for you to buy. The thing is, that means there is that art is so deeply rooted in its people. And this one, a book from Tara called Following My Paintbrush, written by Dulari Devi, and in association with Geeta Wolf, the founder of Tara, is a magnificent story of Dulari Devi, who is a domestic helper, who then went on to become a renowned Mithila style artist. I mean, obviously, she was doing this right from the time that she was a child. In fact, Dulari Devi, she comes from a community of fisher folk, and that is a life of relentless, hard labor. Now, what is the crux of the book? How did she discover this creativity while actually, working in somebody's house? When she came away from her village and moved to the city in search of work, and, how did she find a way to express her creativity? Well, the thing is, she actually started to work as a house help in an artist's house. And that momentous journey from a worker who knows no rest to an artist who is willing to absolutely bring, put out her imagination, in art, to express her imagination by way of art. It is such a magnificent book. What a magnificent story as well. This is, in fact, Dulari Devi's first book. She's gone on to do a couple of others with Tara itself, and you can see this gorgeous style of painting, the Mithila style of painting, on every page of this magnificent book. It's such a keepsake, really. It's such a treasure. And it makes us, it at least makes all of us think that these images that they keep putting out on news channels and news shows and talk shows, these images, they are possibly just they are one part of life in Bihar. But here, this art, this imagination, this creativity of the people who live there, that's what we really need to celebrate. This one, like I said, published by Tara, and priced at 300 rupees, Following My Paintbrush, by Dulari Devi. These are not the only books, of course, from all these states. There are so many others, all of them up on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Please click on the tab that says Bazaar, and there will be a drop down menu. And one of the drop downs will be India Through Books. You can click on that and find, I think we have over 100 or 120 books put out, in this bazaar. So we're just picking some of our favorites, some of the ones that we haven't recommended very often, at our bazaars. From Bihar, of course, we need and we absolutely move to the national capital region, Delhi. And you know that there are so many marvelous and magnificent books set in that city. Sham, you need to bring this picture up. So these, of all those wonderful books, what we have picked today is, no, not this one, Sham. What, you have to take it out from the feed. What we have picked today is this fantastic one called Letters to Ammi. What a lovely book from Karadi Tales. How marvelously it brings alive Delhi and its grandeur for us readers, young and old. What is Letters to Ammi all about? Written by Aftab Yusuf Sheikh and photographs by Adrija Ghosh and Shaumitra Ranade. This, lovely book is the story of a young girl who traces her mother's journey through the city of Delhi, writing letters to her along the way. She knows every monument holds a memory, every letter tells a story. And, Fatima, who's the protagonist of the book, she wants nothing more than to show her mother, who's no more, I'm afraid, that she is truly her mother's daughter in every way. It's this epistolary format, this letter format works so well to convey, just the beauty of Delhi, its stunning monuments. The photographs really, add so much flavor to these letters. You see, it begins, with Fatima writing a letter to her Ami Jan, saying that she has landed in Delhi. She has finally made her way to Delhi. And you can see that it's accompanied by a photograph of the railway station. Of course, her uncle has come to pick her up, and you can see the book, mixes photographs, line drawings, to bring alive the whole city of Delhi. We really believe it's a magnificent capital city. Every time we've traveled to Delhi as Funky Rainbow, we've just loved to spend 2, 3 days ambling around the beautiful monuments, looking, I mean, those wide, wonderful roads that are, that make the, that lead to such spectacular monuments. Really, for us, when we travel from another city, it is a magnificent capital city to go to. I mean, I know for people who live there, it's probably, I'm just passing the Rashtrapati Bhavan on my way today to work, or I'm just looking at, some beautiful Lodi gardens as I drive along. But for us, our jaws really hit the ground. And we always save a couple of days to go sightseeing. Even if they're places that you've seen over and over again, it's just a magnificent city. And this beautiful epistolary book, that is in the form of letters from the girl to her mother, really bring alive the spirit, I mean, the beauty of India's capital. And really, the letters are so poignant and so moving. This one is published by Karadi Tales, priced at 399 rupees. Shantanu Datta saying, my God, what a lucky guy. I live pretty much next to the Qutub Minar. It's magnificent every time I see it. You're going to have 5 unexpected guests very soon. Extra rooms, I hope, available for all of us. The Qutub is such a monument, really, right? And we really, believe that Delhi has the soul of India in just the way it is and built. A really wonderful recommendation out there. We then move to Uttarakhand, and we've picked for the state of Uttarakhand is an award-winning picture book called The House That Sonabai Built. Now, the thing about these books, the books that Shantanu Datta Gupta saying, happy to have you, can give you a personalized tour. Muttama Sham, are you booking tickets just right now? Like, okay, COVID or not, we will. But a big thank you goes out to you, Shantanu, and we will take you up on that offer sooner rather than later. This one, from Uttarakhand, The House That Sonabai Built, written by that fantastic artist and writer Vishakha Chanchani, and which has photographs by Stephen Hoyler, is these books that focus on the transformative power of art. The power of art to lift people out of the fears and the difficulties and the challenges of their lives. I mean, it's true of all of us. You could be having a really difficult day. If you walked out amidst some trees, if you picked up a book that had some exquisite art, if you listened to some fantastic music, it goes a long, long way in making you feel that everything is actually all right, can be all right, and you can surmount your challenges and difficulties, through the power that art forms of every kind have. Now, this one, it's an award-winning book. It won in the Hindu Young World Good Books Award for Best Book of Nonfiction, I think in 2019 perhaps, or 18 maybe. And it's the story of a young woman, Sonabai Rajawar, who finds herself completely alone day after day, in the 15 years that she has been married. No family, no friends, and an indifferent husband who just has a whole lot of other things to do. What does Sonabai do? How does she get herself out of the loneliness, out of the oppression of just being alone, day after day with nobody to talk to? Well, she just dives into her own creative core. And what happens, what you see in the course of the story is the fact that, about how she transforms her life through, through art, through her ability to, to use art to uplift her life. The thing is, I'm sorry, Mutama pointed it out to me. I said Jharkhand. I think what I meant was Chhattisgarh. I'm sorry, I think I said Uttarakhand. I'm sorry. I mean, it is a book set in Chhattisgarh, because Sonabai is a real person. And her life has been so fabulously documented, and has received so much acclaim, because what Sonabai did out of just that loneliness is to start to decorate her own house with such beautiful art, wonderful trellises, using create, to do such innovative experiments with light. You can see, she carved trellises on windows, she made paintings on the walls, she used clay, so innovatively, and really transformed her house. In fact, the house that you see on the cover, and I'm going to show you a picture, like for instance, look at this, like look at doing this to one of your own windows, really, right? I mean, it's just amazing, the art that Sonabai has in her. I mean, the book not only gives you an introduction to her life, the milieu, a sense of the place, a sense of the village that she lives in, but it's also a story of courage, conviction, and how creativity can bring the best out in you. It's truly deserving. And Stephen Hoyler Vishaka has written the story so well. We would recommend the book for 7 or maybe even 8+-year-olds. It's perfectly possible to tell them where the book is set. It's possible to pick up a map and show them that this is where this book is set. And it's possible to have the, I mean, I know when we did an event with Vishaka, she had children work with clay, and the fabulous expressions that each one of them came up with that potter's clay was just fantastic. This one, like I said, 7 or 8+-year-olds, priced at 250 rupees, and published by Tulika. We then move to Gujarat, to the state of Gujarat, and the book that we have for you is a lovely one from Kalpavriksha called Shero to the Rescue. Divya is saying, good morning to everyone. Very excited to see the bazaar. Very excited to see you here, Divya Menon, Avyukt, and Ameya Nair. We absolutely just love, seeing all of you here on a Saturday morning. We have, like I said, picked a marvelous book from, published by Kalpavriksha. That is the story of young Sheru, who lives in a place called Kutch. It's basically the Ran of Kutch. And what is, it's a beautiful book set in the grasslands of Kutch, and taking you into the grasslands, into the westlands, and into the desert of Kutch. You realize that so much diversity in that landscape, just in landscapes just within one state. This one, written by Ashish Kothari, a very well-known environmentalist, and illustrated by Anusha Menon, is the story of Sheru, a young hedgehog who lives in a beautiful place in Gujarat, in the west of India. I mean, it is an environmental story, so it introduces you, besides telling you the story of what gets young Sheru into a real panic. Because one day, here, Sheru sees a lot of people in her, in the Kutch region, just where she is, and she is in quite a panic. That is the core of the story, of course. What is the panic? Why are the people there? And the different creatures, because she has friends. She has a monitor lizard friend called a monitor lizard uncle called Go. And you can see that the author is trying to introduce you to the fantastic creatures that make up this lovely landscape of India. lovely story of young Sheru and what Sheru does to save her, her grassland, her wetland, and her desert in Kutch. This one, like I said, published by Kalpavriksha and priced at 130 rupees, a fabulous book, to introduce a wonderful landscape of India in Gujarat. From there on, we move to Himachal Pradesh. Oh, well, we didn't do the alphabetical thing correctly, obviously, right? I mean, I'm just looking at it on my sheet right now, and I'm like, man, I got the alphabetical order wrong. I hope I'm forgiven. If not, I shall write the ABC 50 times at least today and get the order right of each of these states. We move to Himachal Pradesh, and we have a lovely mystery for you set in Solan. And with this one by Ravi Subramaniam, the writer for adults, Ravi Subramaniam, writing a series of mysteries. I mean, this is the first one that has come out. It's called the SMS Detective Agency Book 1. Really a master storyteller and, adept at writing exciting thrillers. This one is a detective story set in the small town of Solan up in Himachal Pradesh. So, it lends itself, a small town, a little hill station, basically, lending itself so marvelously well to a school story. So obviously, it's a school and there are a set of mystery solvers. In fact, SMS stands for Super Mystery Solvers, or the SMS gang of Aditya and Akriti, who are 9-year-old twins, and their very good friend Kabir. Now, there is a mystery in this school, and what is happening in that mystery? The school, I mean, I wonder whether it's a mystery that makes children happy or unhappy. The school is on fire, obviously, all right. And what happens? It's a case that is baffling the local police. It's a case that is baffling all adult detectives. That's when the SMS gang strikes. The SMS gang, sets about solving this mystery of the school on fire. And it is really, a nail-biting read. Also, like I said, evoking a small town like Solan. What is life in a small town like? What is life, with a lot of schools in these hill stations? Like Ravi Subramaniam does a great job of evoking, what living in Solan, living and going to school in Solan is like. The book is, we would recommend it for 8+ year olds or maybe even year olds. It is, it has a lot of illustrations, of course, on most pages, but it is text heavy. And, depending on children's reading proficiencies, we would say 8+ or 9+-year-olds. What's more is that we know children love, to read series of books. And this one promises to have many mysteries, coming out as part of this series. So do check out this first one of the SMS Detective Agency, and by author Ravi Subramaniam, published by HarperCollins, and priced at 250 rupees. From Himachal Pradesh, we move to Jammu and Kashmir, of course. I mean, such a beautiful, in our heads growing up, and even now, I think, the beauty of that natural landscape is something that is breathtaking, even when you just imagine it, even when you just look at pictures, in books or in magazines, on your computer, when you're looking at, surfing the internet to find pictures of Jammu and Kashmir. It is really, poets and writers have described it as Jannat. All these places, they come with different sides, right? It is Jannat, but Jannat is not, also has its shares of problems. And we have for you a book by a writer who beautifully captures the dilemmas and, these issues that plague so many beautiful places in our country. This is Paro Anand's Nomad's Land. Paro, as you all know, is a master writer of young adult fiction, and has done many, in fact pioneered the genre in India really, with her book No Guns at My Son's Funeral, which is also set in Kashmir, and amidst a terrorist camp where a young boy is lured away by a group of terrorists to join them. But in this book, which is her latest one, and I do know that I think Paro is doing a session around Nomad's Land somewhere, today. She has picked up, a different story. Of course, she's picked up a political problem that plagued Kashmir a couple of decades ago, which is the displacement, of Kashmiri Pandits, the displacement of many tribes from Kashmir because of insurgency. So the protagonists of her book, Shana and Pema, are two girls who are actually growing up in a big city, but who meet at a new school. What happens to them? They come from displaced communities. What draws Shana and Pema to each other? The fact that they come from displaced Kashmiri communities. Well, Shana is a Kashmiri Pandit, and Pema comes from a nomadic tribe. And Paro has of course innovated the name. I mean, that this tribe really doesn't exist. I think she calls them the Kushvans. And the thing is, they have also been displaced from Kashmir, basically from the high mountains which were their home. And you know what? It's violence that has displaced them from their homes. How do the girls, I mean, who are now in the city, how do they cope? How do they cope with being in an old ways of life? And what does that friendship do for them? Does it sustain them? Does it, help them erase painful memories that were part of their lives? This is a really searing and tender story about the effects of terrorism, the effects of displacement. And really, Paro always has said this in several interviews, that her stories end on a note of hope always. And in this one too, the power of friendship, the ability to reconcile yourself to so many things that have happened in your life, they leave the protagonists with so much hope. It's a wonderful, compassionate, compelling story, and we really urge, I think, all of us adults need to read these books. Like I said, she hasn't situated it in the exact historical period when this displacement took place. She has brought it down to the modern times. So the book is actually set in present times, but it's absolutely a fantastic and compelling read, set in a state that is one of the most beautiful states in India. This one, published by Speaking Tiger, is priced at 350 rupees. Are we in time for yeah, okay, so we are Preeti Ramchandran saying, good morning team FR, enjoying armchair travel across our beautiful country through these lovely books with you this morning. Such a thoughtful idea. Thank you. A big hug going out to you, Preeti Ramchandran and Gohan. We have missed you guys, and we're so delighted that you're here at the Bazaar this Saturday morning. We are, of course, in time, just in time to introduce our guest for the day. And what is lovely is that, the guest of the day has a story in a book, and, based in the city that Funky Rainbow is at, Namma Uru, Bengaluru, really. So it is just lovely that the book came out not so long ago, maybe a month or a month and a half ago. And we're delighted that to invite Meera Iyer to join us at the Book Bazaar this morning. I'll introduce her as soon as she comes in live. I think Sham's trying to. Good morning, Meera.
Good morning. Good morning.
How lovely to see you here this morning. And we were just telling our audience that we are so delighted that the spotlight this month, Menaka Raman says, Meera, and has like put some hearts out to you. I'm just conveying it to you in a very braying sort of voice. I wish Menaka would say to you. Preeti Ramchandran, or rather Guhan says, hugs back to you, Vidya Auntie and Team Funky Rainbow. It is so lovely to have all of you here at the bazaar this Saturday morning. But like I said, Meera wears so many hats. In fact, if I started describing the things that Meera does, we would probably spend the rest of our bazaar talking about Meera's skills. But she is a lovely author. She is an editor. She is a researcher. She is the convener of Intact's Bangalore chapter. And Meera, I'm sure, is a walker par excellence. Many life lessons to be picked up from Meera there for Team Funky Rainbow. We're going to do some walking bazaars at some point in time, I think, really.
Looking forward to that.
She has absolutely, the greatest thing and the loveliest thing about her is that she is such a big Bangalore lover and has some wonderful books for, the new book that we're introducing today, where she has a story and it's probably her brainchild that this book came out. She has this one for children called 11 Stops to the Present, Stories of Bengaluru. And she has this marvelous book for adults called Discovering Bengaluru, History, Neighborhoods and Walks. I'm so gleefully showing you my own autographed copy of this book because it's such a wonderful way to discover a city that is home and has been home for so many years, whether it is Meera's book for adults or children. There are so many discoveries about Namma Uru that we as adult readers, and we hope many of our younger readers as well, have stumbled upon thanks to her books. So welcome again, Meera. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you, Vidya. It was quite an intro. I'm glad to be here too.
So these are the whole bazaar is, focusing on books that are set in different cities and different villages and different towns. We're trying to see if we can encompass the entire gamut. That's going to be a tall order, really. But, we're here with you because of this wonderful new book that you have, that was really your brainchild, and from which has stories from so many lovely contributors, so many familiar Bangalore names. So I wanted to start by asking you, Meera, children, are discovering imaginary worlds all the time. I mean, children, adults too. I think half the time, I live in some imaginary world in my own head. But what a lovely idea, really, to help them discover a real world too. Tell us why you chose to put this book together, why Intact chose to put this book, 11 Stops to the Present, together for young readers.
Well, Vidya, to put it in a nutshell, really, we just want people to get to know the city. That was really why we did it. And, we found that there are lots of books about the city already. Almost all of them, barring one or two, are for adults. There was really nothing that children could read about their own city, which seemed to be a shame. So this was really the reason why we decided to put together this book for children.
What a lovely idea. So what we've decided to do is, there are many contributors to the book. book, like I said, many old Bangalore writers who've written on Bangalore, and amongst them Aditi De, Anirudh Kanisetti, Anita Murthy, Edgar de Mello, Meera herself contributing a lovely story to the collection, Menaka Raman, who's sent out a thunderous hello to Meera, Nagaraj Bastare, Sandhya Rao, Shruti Rao, Shweta Taneja, and Zach Oya. The thing is, we have a couple of them have told us what their stories in the book, in this book, is all about, and we are going to play a video of one person talking after each of these questions, and we'll start off with Anirudh's video, Sham.
My name is Anirudh. I'm one of the authors of the stories in 11 Stops to the Present. I've lived in Bangalore for all of my professional life and I have a deep attachment to the city, given how much I've learned and matured while I've lived here. One thing that's always struck me is about how little people know about the history of the city. Before the British arrived, even Gowda, a lot of people aren't necessarily aware that the history of Bangalore goes back centuries before that. So what I attempt to do in my story, A Hero of Begur, is give us a glimpse of this medieval Bangalore, which was torn by warfare between villages and towns that spread across the expanse of the modern metropolis, and try to tell the story of a young man growing up in those times and the kind of family culture that he would have been exposed to, and also how he would have responded to the religiosity and the violence that tore the Deccan in that period.
That was Anirudh with his telling us about his lovely story, A Hero of Begur. Meera, what you said in response to the earlier question leads me to my next one. When we talk about helping children discover places and cities and towns in India, there are dozens of books of non-fiction that are available for them, right? I mean, books that have facts, books that, tell you like exciting, bits and bytes of information about different cities. Why did you choose fiction as a format to introduce Bangalore to young readers?
Good question. So, very often, I think you find that, not always, but very often you'll find that children pick up non-fiction only as a compulsion. This is not to cast any aspersions on any of the non-fiction books out there. There are some really nice ones, but very often there is this thing that, they read it because they have to read it to gain knowledge or something like that. Whereas when you talk about fiction, then it's much more likely that a child is going to pick it up to enjoy it and to lose himself or herself in the world and to read it just for pleasure. So that was really the main thing. We wanted kids to pick up this book and read it just for the joy of reading, just because they're really good stories. This was something that we told all the writers as well. The stories should have history in them, but really the stress is on it should be a good story. And I think all the writers have done a wonderful job of that.
Absolutely, really. So nicely said. In fact, every story is, has some historical nugget or like a little bit of Bangalore trivia and some real fact that is woven into the story in a really nice way. And yeah, you're right, reading for pleasure. We can't emphasize on it more, I think, really, right? Half the times it's like, man, you can do well in these exams, or it's going to supplement something that you're learning in your classroom, etc., whatever. Just pick up a book, enjoy the stories. And I'm so glad that you chose fiction as the format. Sham, can we have Aditi's, another author who's another lovely Bangalorean and an author who's contributed to this anthology, is going to tell us about her story now.
My name is Aditi De. I live in Bangalore. I write books for both adults and children. In this collection, I have written a story set in grade 8 at a co-ed school. It all begins when the principal sets them a history project on the city. One of the children decides to write a diary about an imaginary Jewish girl, Rivka, who lives in Hazelmere House on Palace Road. How does Rivka relate to people in her family and to others around her who are non Jewish. Her class has a rather unusual history teacher for a while. Who is she? Is she even real? Find out when you read my story. Have fun. Bye.
And there it is, Aditi telling us about her story. Whose history is it anyway? And that just leads me to one of my questions for you, Meera. Was it easy to blend fiction and history to showcase a city, its people, its culture for young readers?
Um, was it easy? It was fun. It was definitely fun. Um, I would say, yeah, it was pretty. It was not very difficult. No, it was easy because there's just so much of material to work with. There are all these things that you can weave into a story, and then you can have your character do things around, historical events or real places and real people. So yeah, it was fairly easy, and it was fun. But we also had to be really careful that what we were saying was actually correct and true to history. So, for example, even little things, little details in the story, in all the stories, they're all accurate. And it was my job as the intact person to make sure that everything that's in the stories was actually correct. So, for example, in Menaka's story, there is a scene where a newspaper features, and initially she had the newspaper as I forget what, like some name. So I suggested that maybe she should have it. The newspaper that is being read in the 1800s should say the Daily Post, because that was a paper that was existing then. It doesn't exist anymore, and that was the paper that was most likely to have been read by the British. So little details like that. Or for example, in one of the stories, in Shweta's story, there is a story about there's a car that features, it's an important aspect of the story. So she says it's a Mercedes. So we just checked to make sure that yes, there were Mercedes cars of that kind in the 30s in India. So all these little details had to be there. Or in my story, for example, which there's a battle and a war and all that. So initially, I had these people wearing shields. And then one of my archaeologist friends who I gave it to just to kind of review, she said, everything else is fine, but Meera, there's no evidence of any shields, any armor like that. So that had to be quickly removed. So all the details that you see in the stories are all true, and that was actually really fun because we had to like pore over everything and make sure that everything is correct. But besides that, yeah, the fiction part, yeah, I mean, people are, yeah, that of course is like, you can, depends on the author and they can take it any which way they go. So yeah, it was fun actually blending the fact and the fiction.
I can imagine. It sounds like so much fun when you were talking. In fact, when I was talking to Aditi, she did say that her early story idea hinged on a telephone call. There was the
Mhm.
crux of the story or one of the key events on the story or something that the protagonist had to do involve the use of a telephone. And you said, no, telephones didn't exist in Bangalore at that point in time, really, right? And
Mhm.
she had to then, write a different story. How very lovely to incorporate these lovely Bangalore bits and bytes of real history into the stories. Sham, can we have Shruti's talking about her story in the collection?
I've spent most of my life in Bangalore and I love it to bits. Just thinking about Bangalore makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. I've always thought I know a lot about Bangalore, but when I was doing the research for my story Unearthed, I found that there's so much about Bangalore's history that I had no idea about. I put some of that into my story. If you're the kind who likes the mechanics of time travel, and if you like pompous, otherworldly characters, and if you want to go on a hop on, hop off journey uh, through the centuries, I think you like the story. Happy reading.
Of course, that was Shruti Rao, the first story in the book called Unearthed, which is it's so charmingly set in Baswangudi, I mean, and Shruti, the protagonist of the story has, never seen her Muttaji, great grandmother, so excited, about moving to a particular place. I mean, it really evokes the sounds and the whole area so very well, Shruti. And perhaps Shruti, who lives now in the US, was a resident of Baswangudi before she moved to the US. That was Shruti Rao with Unearthed. Of course, I wanted you, Meera, as a Bangalore lover, a researcher, historian, to tell us about some special things that readers can discover about Namma Uru through, this book.
Gosh, I think everything about Bengaluru is special here, to be honest, It's
So unbiased.
absolutely. But I think one of the some of the things about Bangalore that I really like are it's this really effortless blend of the past and the present and the future actually. So like you have little bits of history and little bits of heritage and little bits of mystery waiting for you around every corner almost. For example, like you'll be taking a walk in Lal Bagh and suddenly you'll stumble upon a hero stone from the medieval period. It's like so unexpected and it's so exciting because you don't know. Then all these questions come up like, I wonder what happened, or who was it who was involved in this battle? How did it get here? Who made this? And you can build entire stories out of things like that. And this kind of thing happens practically everywhere in Bangalore because, like I said, we have this nice blend of no, the past has not been erased yet. It's very much with us
Lovely.
still. So whether it's buildings or people, so it's there everywhere. So I think that's one of the things that comes through in all these stories as well. Whether in all the other thing about the book that we did was um, when I commissioned all the writers, then one thing we decided was that each writer his or her favorite time and place to write about. So we made sure that there weren't like five stories about Basavangudi, for example. So that's the other thing about the book, which is that you get these little stories of different places in Bangalore and different time periods. So all of it, I think, is it's quite exciting how it's there. There's history everywhere. There's stories everywhere. That's what I like about the city.
Lovely. That is just, yeah, you're so right. I mean, each story taking you from, to back 200 years. Something is right here in the contemporary times. I mean, the stories really, take you time traveling and discover your city down the ages, basically, right? Sham, could we have Anita talking about her story?
I'm Anita Murthy, one of the contributing authors to the book 11 Stops to the Present, which contains some lovely stories about Namma Bengaluru. I was born in this beautiful city and I have spent most of my life over here, and this is truly my home. I remember the times when we used to wear sweaters for 6 months in a year, when we used to wait for our school bus in the morning mists, when the roads were beautiful, wide, lined with leafy trees and without much traffic, and when masala dosas and bhajis from Janata Hotel were a given. The city has grown and so have I, and I've learned so much about this beautiful place that I call home. My story, The Road Ahead, is set in times that are eerily similar to the current scenario. A time when the plague arrived in the city and life as people knew it was completely disrupted. The city, of course, survived and grew bigger and stronger, and my story builds on that same hope for today. I do hope you enjoy reading the story and all the other amazing stories in this book. Happy reading.
Was that serendipitous? How did she get a story about the plague? I mean, was this commissioned before COVID, after COVID?
Actually, Vidya, this is a lockdown book because I commissioned the story at the end of March. all the stories were written. I mean, according to the end of March. So we all worked through the lockdown on this. Mm.
I can't, I mean, it's just, I loved Anita's story as well. And, as you say, so relevant to contemporary times, even if she's like talking about the plague in, Bangalore, which sort of brings me to the question about why is it important to give children a sense of the place that they live in, Meera? I mean, often, and we've seen this ever so often, that children travel to other cities and they think it's made up of malls and restaurants and games arcades. I mean, they're all part of the city, but there's a lot more to the city than just all these artificial buildings that have been set up, right? So why is it important to give children a sense of the place that they live in?
I think um, there's this the National Park Service in the US. They have this very nice, pithy kind of slogan, which I'm
Okay.
paraphrasing here. What they say is, when you know something, you understand it. When you understand it, you appreciate it. So really, I think this applies to a lot of things, not just national parks in the US. This applies equally well to our city and what we know about it. So to answer your question, I think the idea is, why should children know about their place? Because the more they get to know it, the more they appreciate it. The more they appreciate the place they're living in, the more they understand it, the more they love it. That's really that was the crux of the issue. That was the reason why we did the book, and I think it's also really true for. Um, See, we all carry a little bit of the past around with us, whether or not we realize it. So it's good for us to understand it, where we came from, how we got here, all that.
Absolutely. So well said, Meera. Leela Ravichandran saying, so well said, Meera. The thing is, for all of us, the many, people watching the show today, adults, teachers, librarians, parents. I mean, we need to know that there are more to cities than just taking your child to the first restaurant that comes your way, or like some fancy mall that you want to visit. And these books like the one that Meera has that Intact and Meera and several contributors have put together on Bangalore, a must read for us adults as well. We discover so much about our own city reading these stories. And I think if you knew these things, you would be able to point your children, helping them discover stories here, there, everywhere. And as adults, I think we should absolutely take it upon ourselves to introduce children to to the different beautiful places in India, beauty tucked away in stones and pillars and monuments, and just on the streets of different cities. Of course, Meera has this fantastic book for adults, which I showed you right at the beginning, called Discovering Bengaluru. Very happy to say that we have it up on Funky Rainbow's website as well. Again, folks, www.funkyrainbow.com. And we have a package that has put both these books together, 11 Stops to the Present, which we'd recommend for readers 9, 10 plus year olds, and for all us adults, Discovering Bengaluru. Certainly, a lovely book. In fact, I stumbled upon it in an unusual way. I was writing some article pieces to link the business history of a company based in Bangalore with the history of Bangalore, and Meera's book made my deadline go haywire by at least 1 week, I assure you, because I just cast that terrible thing aside and instead read her wonderful book of walks. And so I walks across neighborhoods, heritage monuments, and just little roads and gullies. And having grown up in Bangalore, so many of them came alive through this excellent book, supplemented with great maps, lovely photographs, and really a labor of love here, that Meera has done. So Meera, if you had to pick, I mean, you're such a Bangalore lover, really, right? If you had to tell us about 2 or 3 things that make Bangalore special for you, what would they be? Leela Ravichandran tells me another gem of a book, Discovering Bengaluru. I couldn't agree more, Leela.
Um, Okay, so two things about Bangalore. Oh gosh, I'll do three. I'll do three.
All
So
right,
if you don't mind.
absolutely allowed.
So
Namma Uru, so yes, go
yeah.
right ahead.
Um, One of my favorite places in the city is actually St. Mark's Church. This is partly
Hmm.
because I went to school at Bishop Cotton's, and from Bishop St. Mark's Church is just a stone's throw away. And there were lots of times when I visited there. And so, yes, there is that tie of childhood and growing up here. But even otherwise, the reason I like it now is because it's such an oasis of calm and peace in the middle of the city. You know, there's MG Road right outside, and metro and buses and traffic and cars and everything. But once you enter that compound, everything is so peaceful. There are the trees, and it's like time has stopped, or it goes at a different pace. So I just love that place. There are many other such places around the city, of course, but this one I happen to be more familiar with, or like because I grew up there. So I really like that. St. Mark's Church is one of my favorite places in Bangalore. A second would be Avenue Road. It's like complete contrast to St. Mark's. It's
We
just
have some photos.
so full of
We have
life
photos for
always.
this. Sorry. Yeah.
Um, no problem. It's you never know what you never know what you'll find there. So there's the busyness of the market. There are people everywhere, always, and then you take one gully, and then you'll find something you've never seen before. Like, for example, there'll be shops that you've never seen before, selling things that you've never heard of before. There'll be like little temples with the most amazing, like these snake stones and all. I think
Snake
I've
stones.
yeah, got a photo of that, I
We've
think.
got a photo of
So
them.
yeah, so I love how again here, this little corner with the snake stones, which is behind the Ranganatha Swami temple, in the
Mhm.
middle of all the noise and commercial activity of Avenue Road, there'll be this little peace and quiet. So, and then or you will be walking down, and suddenly you will come across a katte with a tree and people sitting around there. And one added layer of that is that if you know that one of those kattes, for example, actually played an important role in a battle that took place along there. So all these little layers add meaning to that place. So I love Avenue Road. Um, a third final place, I could go on, but okay, I'll just stop with one more, which is
Oh, go
in
on.
Malleshwaram.
Oh,
A
yes.
third place which I like in Malleshwaram. So remember I was talking earlier about how one of the things I like about Bangalore is how it's still got its past with it everywhere. It's also got a lot of rural character along with it, which is within the city of Bangalore. And they're really nicely integrated. So one of the places I really like in Malleshwaram is the Dhobi Ghat. It's
Dhubigat.
it's this huge, vast. It's the biggest Dhobi Ghat in Bangalore. Okay, so there's a picture there, which incidentally, that little pool there was actually a swimming pool earlier. Malleshwaram
Oh.
swimming pool, which was converted and then became part of this Dhobi Ghat. But
Oh.
the reason I like it is again, you can always have a chat with some of the dhobis. They're always happy to talk with you as they're working. You'll find donkeys suddenly, and because some of the dhobis can deliver their clothes, and it's amazing. And at the same time, apart from that rhythmic, thwack thwack of clothes, you'll hear that. But it's so peaceful, it's so quiet, and there are the trees, and there's the sun filtering through the people leaves. It's amazing. It's really, really nice and quiet. So it can be what you want it to be, which is I think that's really what I like about the city. Again, it can be whatever you want it to be. You want quiet, there's quiet. You want like frenetic nightlife, there's that also. You want commercial, there's commercial. Everything is there in the city, wherever you want it, however you want it. It is what you want it to be. So yeah, but these are my three favorite places.
We are going on a walk with you. That Dhobi Ghat just came alive, really, right? I mean, and I haven't met that many people in my life who've said one of my hotspots is the Dhobi Ghat. But I do know because I went to Malleshwaram, I went to college in Malleshwaram, and that Dhobi Ghat is really massive. And
Yeah,
all
it's
those
huge.
battes hanging out there in different colors, really. And the Kattes Sham wants to add just absolutely special. My colleague Bharti was really excited when you mentioned the St. Mark's, church. She was, it's one of her favorite places in the city as well. Mira, how lovely, what a lovely way to bring a city, alive for young readers. I mean, as an, as a, way beyond the age group for which the book is meant. I thoroughly loved every one of those stories. And for all of you out there who are watching, Sunila Kulkarni says, this is so fascinating. The whole concept of the past converging with the present. The past is the present in Bangalore. This is a must get book. I really like what Meera Iyer says. Thank you so much.
Thank
Really,
you, Sunila.
Sunila capturing it. Folks, people, Bangalore people, not in Bangalore people, pick up the book as a pair. It's up, Meera's Discovering Bengaluru and 11 Stops to the Present, available at fantastic combo prices. Adults and child can be reading about the same city, and you can be put to test by your kids about whether you're really reading or simply just advising your kids to read, right? That was just lovely. We have, of course, Smita Nair says the Dhobi Ghat in Malleshwaram is huge. My God, really huge, right? Yeah. We have, of course, in good Funky Rainbow style, we love quizzes. We love, doing quizzes with all of you, and working with Meera, getting like a couple of Bengaluru questions up and ready for you. So if you're ready, we will get started with a Chalo Bangalore quiz. I mean, we were debating last night, should it be Bunny Bangalore or like, should it be Chalo Bangalore? Like, okay. Smita Nair saying, wow, I miss my city even more now. She's in Kerala and does some fantastic work with children. Smita, buy the book. It'll transport you to Bangalore immediately. That's for sure, really. So yes, the Chalo Bangalore quiz, fastest finger first, has always been the case. So get ready to type in your responses, folks. I'm going to start off. I mean, Meera has given us so much info. So just given us the sense of Bangalore so nicely. So it needs no introduction, of course, the city. But my first question for you is, Bangalore is famous for a big and beautiful botanical garden. It has some 2,000 species of trees from all over the world and India's largest collection of tropical plants. What is this garden called? Guys, Muttama can't answer the question. Bharti can't answer the question. Sujita, everybody in Funky Rainbow is angling for the prizes. There are wonderful prizes sponsored by Intac. We thank them very much for sponsoring these prizes. So I'm waiting to see who's typed in the answer to, yes, Smita Nair. The prize goes out to Smita Nair, who says Lal Bagh. Indeed, the Lal Bagh Botanical Gardens, originally commissioned by Hyder Ali to be his private garden and expanded by his son Tippu, the Maharajas of Mysore, and the British residents over the next 150 years. A real oasis. Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj, you said Lal Bagh, but Smita pipped you at the post, and the prize going to Smita Nair. You're noting it down, right? Yeah. Okay, the next question, easy peasy. Which grand building does the Chief Minister of Karnataka and his cabinet rule from? And who designed that building? I'm not giving away the prize if you just name the building. Sham, do you have the audio clips? Audio clips. Oh, gosh. Guys, I'm waiting for the answer. Which grand building does the Chief Minister of Karnataka and his cabinet rule from? I want the name of the building and I want the name of the person who designed it, who's credited with coming up with the design. Yes. Smita Nair again, obviously proving her love for Bangalore over and over again. It is indeed the Vidhan Sauda. Many of you who've traveled to Bangalore would have seen this magnificent building, and it was indeed, designed by Kengal Hanumantaya. Its foundation was laid by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru on 13th July 1951. So that is indeed the Vidhan Sauda where the Chief Minister of Karnataka and his cabinet rule from. I'm going to my next question to you. There is, this world renowned scientist lived in a house called Panchavati in Bangalore. Who are we referring to? Guys, really a world renowned scientist, and his house, Panchavati. I think Meera has given us a picture as well, right, of the house, Sham? Yes. So, yes, that's Meera, you know, with a group of people just in front of Panchavati who, who lived in this house whose name was Panchavati. Is Avyukt and Ameya Nair there? They are like the real quizzing. Oh my God, Smita is just sweeping on a roll, guys. You can't let her walk away with all the prizes. We can't give you all 10 prizes. Definitely, Smita. Meera, Muttama's asking you if you actually spoke to Smita before the quiz. Well, Smita says near MES College. Yes, I too went to MES College, and it is indeed Sir Chandrasekhar Venkataraman, India's first Nobel Prize winning scientist and the only one to have won it in sciences to date. So that is just wonderful. Our next question. An accidental meeting between Jamshedji Tata and Swami Vivekananda on a ship in 1893 was the main reason behind the setting up of this world-renowned institute in Bangalore. I'm going to have to let Team Funky Rainbow answer it because everybody is putting their hands up right in front of me. Which building are we referring to? An accidental meeting between Jamshedji Tata and Swami Vivekananda on a ship in 1893 was the main reason behind the setting up of this world-renowned institute in Bangalore. No, not that. No, Smita. Yes, of course, but you got the answer wrong the first time round. It is indeed Leela Ravichandran gets it because you got the answer wrong the first time. It is indeed the Indian Institute of Science, which was set up in Bangalore in 1909. Of course, another question, and I'm wondering where the kids are. I saw, Avyukt and Ameya Nair. I know Guhan was also there watching the show. So let me give you a question that is sort of maybe first just directed at kids. There is this famous building in Bangalore which has a dinosaur in it. Guys, which building is it? It is, of course, I have to tell you, it is a robotic dinosaur, but still it has a dinosaur in it. Which building am I referring to? Yes, I'm waiting for the answer from any of the kids who are watching. And because there are some fantastic prizes that are, to be won from the quiz, all sponsored by Intact, you can be dead sure there are lovely goodies coming your way. Which building? Otherwise, I'm going to have to give Team Funky Rainbow the option because we want those gifts as well. Really, we want those prizes as well. Which building, famous building in Bangalore, has a dinosaur, a robotic dinosaur in it? Going to wait just another 20 seconds for the answer. I'm waiting and watching to see if anyone gets it right. Guys, you have the faster speed, live feed than I do. Okay, all right. Yes, so Team Funky Rainbow is answering the question, and I haven't shared anything with them. Obviously, it is the Vishveshwaraya Museum. It is in the basement, and the museum is named after a well-known Indian engineer, scholar, and statesman. Smita says Vishweshwaraya Museum, but I'm afraid we gave you the answer even before you typed it out. It is named after the well-known Indian engineer, scholar, and statesman Sir Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya. My next question is again a very easy one. There is a naval-based cosmonaut who is the first Indian in space. Can anyone name him? I think we should get 100 right answers on this count. This famous cosmonaut from Bangalore, the first Indian in space. Name him. Waiting, and I'm going to count the seconds and wait to see who gets the right answer. All right, another 10 seconds to wait. And otherwise, I'm just, yay! All the way from Delhi, Shantanu Datta Gupta. Yes, I'm so glad you correct. Shantanu, I'm going to not give it to you, or should I? He says Rakesh Kumar, but I think Shantanu knows the answer. Rakesh Sharma, it is indeed in April 1984 when he got into a spaceship and blasted off into the skies. He became the first Indian in space. And that iconic line when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi asked him how India looked from up there, he said, Sare Jahan se acha, and making every Indian so very proud. My next question for you, easy peasy. Shantanu says he was wrong. Well, Rakesh Kumar, well, we'll decide. We'll look at the time thing and decide who got the right answer. If I said that in Bangalore you were visiting the Bharatiya Antariksh Anusandhan Sangathan, where would you be going to? Which place would you be going to? The Bharatiya Antariksh Anusandhan Sangathan, where would you be going to? And this building, this organization, headquartered in Bangalore for absolutely the right reasons. Okay, guys, I'm going to wait 30 seconds to see who gets the answer before I move in to my last question. Anusandhan, Shams written the Hindi out for me saying you got it wrong. Shantanu Datta Gupta, hooray! Indeed, it is the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, which was formed on Independence Day in 1969. Its first chairman, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who is considered the father of the Indian space program. I can see so many right answers. Smita Nair, no. Jawaharlal Nehru Planetarium. It is the Indian Space Research Organization. But I can see Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj got it right. I can see Leela Ravichandran got it right as well. And my last question for the day, absolutely, is from language. We all love it at Funky Rainbow. You must have all heard the word Bangalore. Bangalore. It is definitely not the past tense of Bangalore. There is no past tense. Bangalore is here, Bangalore is now. But what does the word mean? What does the word Bangalore mean? Funky Rainbow team only putting up hands, legs, everything, like full chaos going on in the office. I cannot even turn the camera the other side. So what does the word Bangalore mean? I'm going to wait just another 10 seconds for the right answer and then move back to Meera. So guys, Bangalore, we've heard it so many times in the context of information technology. Well, Smita Nair, Benda Kaluru, you have to read Smita Nair's Discovering Bangalore book because she puts paid to the Benda Kaluru myth that, yes, Yes, Leela Ravichandran gets the right answer. It was used initially by the Americans and refers to workers being laid off because jobs were outsourced to Bangalore. Shantanu Datta Gupta, not censored, nothing censored in Bangalore. Bangalore is a cool city to be in. You know you're in Delhi and we love the city. You love the city Delhi, but Bangalore is so cool. So nothing censored in Bangalore ever. Boiled beans, really, you have to read Meera Iyer's Discovering Bengaluru to find out, to separate fact from fiction that is associated with this city. So that was the quiz. I was really hoping a couple of kids may have actually, won the prizes. But we'll go back to our our timesheet and figure who won the prizes. But Chalo Bangalore, obviously, lots of you need to Chalo Bangalore. And while you are not able to do it because of COVID times, there is just one solution to it. Chalo Bangalore with these two fantastic books. This one that we'd recommend for 9, 10+ year olds, and this one for all adults, available at a special price of 850 rupees together. This book is 700 and this book is 280 rupees. So there is an incredible discount on it. Pick up the two books and discover the city of Bengaluru like never before. Thank you, Meera, for being with us, for giving us such
Thank you.
wonderful
Yeah.
bits and bites of information and such lovely insights into why we need to introduce our kids to different places in India. It was a pleasure having you at our book bazaar today.
Thank you, Vidya. That was a really, really fun session. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And there we are back, guys. Lots and lots of questions and prizes that could have been won. I am absolutely going to go back to that chart and figure out who's won the prizes. But thank you so much for participating in our quiz. Before we get on with some more recommendations, quickly going to just say hi and hello to so many friends who have signed in and are here this morning. Neeraj Jha, what a lovely pleasure to be saying hello to you across a screen, a computer screen. Sindhu Pillai, Shruti Sri Raghunath, Sangeeta Krishnamurthy, Smita Nair, Ruben de Cruz. So lovely to see you here this morning. Rashmi Verma, Emina Kosovac, Arun G, Mekhala Hosakere Krishnamurthy, Amita Savant Kubal, Dinesh Nambiar, Preeti Ramachandran, Sheila Rajagopalan, Priya Mayur, Soumya Uddaraju, Lakshmi Priya Menon, Ravi Chandran, Vani Balraman, Leela Ravichandran. Such a pleasure to see so many of you here this morning. Mehek Chaudhary, Madhura Shenoy, Padma Baliga, who says she wants to pick up a Funky Rainbow mug. For those of you who came late, an exclusive, custom-created, gray stroke drawn, mug for chai, coffee, any poison of your choice, basically. Water too, of being a book champion. These mugs will go up for sale, in a couple of days on our website. Do pick up a mug and, enjoy chit chat over chai or coffee with us in our bazaars every Saturday. Sheila Rajgopalan, great talk about Bangalore. Thanks, Meera, for bringing Bangalore alive for us. Waiting for a walk now. Indeed, we are. Nitya Nag, mommy of Missy Mister, play is a children's work. Aarti Mamta, so lovely to see you. Ride home, such a pleasure to have you here this morning. Appu Sambandhan, Joanne Saldana, Bindya Parvani, Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, Divya Menon, Avyukta Nameya Nair, Moon Mitra Das, Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj, Jyoti Narayan, Menaka Raman, Mam Geeta Mani, Shruti Shetty, Ramendra Kumar, Shantanu Datta Gupta. I can't. J Auntie, Jaunty Tales. I thought, wow, J Auntie Tales. Well, Jaunty Tales. मैं हूं ना April. Lovely. पर हम तो अभी जनवरी में हैं फिलहाल. Anjali Rajagopal, Amav, the loveliest history writers for children. So glad that you've joined us at the bazaar. Hakuna Matata, Nikita Atri. Nikita Atri is, I think, Archana Atri and family. How lovely to see you here, Bookwali. Yamini Vijayan, lovely to have you here this morning too, Yamini. Rubal Gulati, return gifts for all. Yes, we have return gifts for every reason and every season at Funky Rainbow for sure. Thank you so many of you for joining us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on our YouTube channels this morning. We will continue with some more recommendations. Like I said, so little time, so many books. We will continue making some more recommendations, for the different states of India. But please do log into www.funkyrainbow.com. Click on the tab that says Bazaar, and there will be a drop down menu that says India through books. There will be several themes that come up. Click on the theme that says India through books, and you will get books on all the states, and all the union territories of India. Of course, I return to my recommendation. I think we stopped at Jammu and Kashmir, and we are off to Kerala, right from Kashmir to Kerala right now, with this charming story by Srilata Radhakrishnan and illustrated by KP Muralidharan, called Apakka. What is the story of Apaka about? It's about a little girl called Nonu, whose world revolves around her goat, Apaka. And Apaka is soft as cotton. And what does she love to eat? All the jackfruit leaves. And, always wanting to play with Nonu and her friends. But one day when Nonu comes back from school, she finds Apaka missing. My gosh, what will Nonu do without her best friend? You have to read this evocative story set in Kerala, which really gives us a fabulous glimpse into the life of a young child. Really lovely illustrations, so nicely set in the lush Kerala landscapes, and the story and pictures coming together to absolutely capture this wonderful bond between Apaka and Nonu. This one we would recommend for 4+ year olds and priced at 175 rupees. I have to repeat, these are not the only books that exist that are set in these states. We've just picked and chosen some of our favorites, some of the ones that we've not recommended before, and books that really bring alive the place in specific ways. From Kerala, we move to Madhya Pradesh. And what do we have here for Madhya Pradesh? This beautiful visual autobiography of an artist called Bhuri Bai Bheel. This is a visual, autobiography that she has created along with another artist called Debjani Mukherjee. And you can see the story begins right from Bhuri Bai's home, which is in the Bhil village of Jhabua. The Bhil village of Jhabua, located in Madhya Pradesh. What does the book do? It gives us a flavor, a peek into the life of Bhuri Bai Bhil. What does she do? She says there's a huge courtyard. I remember my mother cleaning it every morning. There is a water that is kept on a palindi, a wooden stand outside the house. My mother told me when I was 7 years old that I had to start going to the field with them. What a brilliant evocation of the life of a young Bhil, and a Bhil who then goes on to write her own visual autobiography through exciting art. It's a lovely book from Katha, giving you, and like I've always pointed out with the Katha books, always bits and bytes of fabulous information either about the person. And Bhuri Bai Bheel too is a real person. So you can see photographs, you can see like a lot of information about the Pittora style of painting, that the Beals adopt, a lovely little book that takes you right into the heart of Madhya Pradesh. This one priced at 195 rupees and published by Katha. We of course have to go to Maharashtra, and instead of Bombay, where there are tons and tons of lovely books set in Bombay, could be Venita Koilo's Boy Number 32, could be Shabnam Minwala's What Maya Saw, but we've actually picked a book that is set in Thane. And this one by Kautuk Srivastava, we would recommend this one for, say, 11 plus year olds, or maybe even 12 plus year olds. Is a superb football story. It's the story of sport. The protagonist of the story, Rishabh, gets to his 10th standard, and that's when life gets quite complicated. Depending on what level your children are reading at, like I said, you could recommend it for 11 plus year olds, maybe even 12 plus year olds, perhaps even young adults. Why does his life get complicated? Well, there's the pressure of board exams, and he also finds himself hopelessly in love. Wow, what a quandary. Board exams vis a vis love. But what he yearns most of all is victory on the field. One trophy that he wants his beloved school's football team to win. This is set in suburban Thane, and I have visited Thane so many decades ago. It must be at least 20 years ago that I had a chance to go to Thane. This is set in Thane of 2000, and it really brings alive the flavor of that town. Besides being a fantastic coming of age story. And I know many kids, many children that we've introduced these books to love football. I know Muttama's daughter read this book and came back to me and she said, "Man, there are such cool jokes in this book, Auntie." And they really are such good, cool jokes. In fact, once she came back and said this, we actually researched and found out whether we wanted to research and find out whether Kautuk Srivastava was a stand-up comedian or not. Such lovely jokes, such a lovely story, a must read, we would say, for children 12 plus years, definitely. This one published by Penguin, priced at 299 rupees. From Maharashtra, we move to Meghalaya, and there is this excellent book called Race of the Rivers, set right in Meghalaya, retold and translated by Esther Siam, who is an academic and professor at the Northeastern Hill University. And these not the stories from the Northeast, the lovely legends that they have associated with them. This is the story of two sisters, Ka Liu and Ka Yu and Ka Ingot, who love to play on top of the mountain. They're two sisters, of course. And one day, one of them gets really adventurous, looks at the sun shining on the distant hill, and challenges her sister to a race. What happens? This beautiful book, illustrated by Benedict Hayaniveta, also beautifully brings alive the lush landscape of Meghalaya. The two of them, absolutely in a flash, they become rivers, and they race down the hill. Who wins? We're not going to tell you who wins. The lovely thing about this book, which is originally a Khasi story, is that it has been published by Tulika, the publishers, in Khasi too, which means the book is available in English, it's available in Hindi, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, and also in Khasi, the language in which it was originally written. A fantastic book that really, introduces us to a beautiful folk story from this wonderful state of Meghalaya. From there, we move to, we move on to Nagaland, just another, place again in the Northeast, and we have this fantastic young adult novel called Grasshoppers Run, The Grasshoppers Run, written by Siddhartha Sharma and published by Scholastic. That really, I mean, I think Grasshoppers Run was amongst one of the earliest books, young adult books that won the crossword for its, for being such a fantastic book, for introducing us to a part of the world that not so many of us are unfortunately familiar with. And Siddhartha Sarma, who can really tell a compelling tale, has set this in the spring of 1944, when it is the end of the World War. The Imperial Japanese army, undefeated on the Asian mainland, invades British India and in the Naga Hills. And an ambitious and sadistic colonel massacres a village of the Ao tribals. What a setting! And amongst the people who is dead is Uti, who is the grandson of the chief of the Ao tribes. Gojen, who is Uti's best friend. What does Gojen, who's in school in Kolkata when all this happens, what does he do when he hears of this tragedy? It really picks up from an ancient legend from Nagaland, and takes us into territories that are at once frightening, at once emotional, at once, bringing alive regions of a country, or the region of a country that not many of us seem to know of. This is really, I know that this is a new edition print of The Grasshoppers Run, and believe me, it's a book that every young adult and every adult really needs to read. It is, of course, a story of the call of duty and friendship beyond death. And the thing is, set in this historical context, makes for a fantastic read. We're not surprised it won the crossword, so many years ago. This one published by Scholastic, priced at 250 rupees. The Grasshoppers Run by Siddhartha Sharma. I don't know what time we have. 10th anniversary edition. Thank you for telling us that, Shantanu Datta Gupta. What a fantastic book. And I do know it won the crossword so many years. The book that made Indian YA absolutely, with Paro Anand's No Guns at My Son's Funeral and Grasshoppers Run, The Grasshoppers Run, simply opening up the world of Indian YA for our young adult readers, which means also for all adult readers. Thank you for that fabulous bit of information, Shantanu. From there, we move to Orissa, and I think we're almost out of time, so I'm going to do Orissa and, leave the rest. Maybe I'll just tell you the books that we picked up and show it to you, but we will recommend this one that came brand new on our shelves just a week or 10 days ago, called Unga, written by Devashish Makhija. It's a critically acclaimed 2013 film, which has been converted into this fantastic young adult novel. Devashish himself has written this novel for young adult readers, and it is, such a, it's a story that brings alive, the brutality sometimes of life when you are, when you are part of a tribal community in India. This one is, at the heart of the story is a young Dongria Kond boy, and the novel is eponymous of, of him. His name is Unga, and what is his, epic journey from a big city. Unga had me turning the pages, this time not just, to get to the end of the story, but really, we isolate ourselves from so many realities of India. And, it's time that our young adults, understood that India is a country of such enormous diversity. There are people who live in different parts of the country that face the kind of challenges that we could never even dream of, and yet they are hopeful, yet they battle their circumstances and violence that simply just gets inflicted upon them for no rhyme or reason. I haven't watched the film. I really do intend to watch it. I would have anyways read the book first before watching the film. But this one, Unga, we would recommend it really for young adults because there are some scenes of violence, Mutama Devaya, Funky Rainbow rocks, Sohini Mitra says. Sorry. Sohini says that, indeed, thank you so much for that compliment, Sohini Mitra. This one, a fantastic book set in the Dongria Kond tribe of Orissa, published by Tulika and priced at 295 rupees. I know we're completely out of time, so I'm just going to show you the books that we had put out for some of the other states. You can go on to the site and pick it up. There is Wrestling Mania, a folk tale from Punjab. There is When Bholu Came Back, a charming, lovely story set in Rajasthan. There is The King and the Kiang, set in Sikkim. A beautiful story, set in Sikkim. I had this lovely one set in Tamil Nadu called Mridu in Madras. I know, that there may not be that many of you who know of this book. This one, written by Vasanta Surya, set in a city that I really love in Madras, still prefer to call it Madras over Chennai. This excellent read for 11 plus year olds, from Ekalavya called Mridu in Madras. We had picked this for Tamil Nadu, and the one that we picked for Uttar Pradesh, again, a beautiful book that I only read about 2 weeks ago called Bena's Summer by Shibal Bharatiya, set in the village of Sultanpur. It's easily one of the nicest books that I read last year. At once poignant, it has a young protagonist, but I think it's a young adult novel, or at least I would say that children above the age of 12, should pick it. Set in the heartlands of Uttar Pradesh in a little village called Sultanpur. This one for Uttar Pradesh, and this lovely book for West Bengal called The Talking Bird, written by Swati Sengupta, set in the fabulous city of Kolkata. These were some of our recommendations, folks. I'm afraid we just didn't have the time to talk about all of these. A couple of more from other cities as well, all up on Funky Rainbow's Book Bazaar, www.funkyrainbow.com. Click on the tab that says Book Bazaar, and Shams put the link up right there. The drop down menu will have a theme that says India Through Books. Please do check it out. There are tons of lovely books from different states and union territories of India up there. We will, of course, quickly just show you our new arrival books. Sham, you're going to play our new arrivals video and wrap up in another 2-3 minutes, hopefully. So very quickly, 5 new arrivals for different age groups, including adults. And this lovely big book in Hindi from Ekalavya called Shaljam. It's a fabulous story in Hindi, which we are going to start reading now. The lovely thing about new arrivals is after we've announced them to you, we need to get our act together and read them for sure. But it is a big book, which means it is for our youngest readers and in Hindi. We have some lovely Western books that have made their way into our collection as well. And this one, we know how many kids are fond of doggies. This is Enid Blyton's Bones and Biscuits, Letters from a Dog Named Bobs. Muttama, the huge dog lover, just went right now. But indeed, it has a cover that makes you go, oh. It's Enid Blyton, it's dogs, it's bones, it's biscuits. Is there any reason not to read it, really? This one we would recommend for 7+-year-olds, I think. Yes, 7+-year-olds pretty much. We have David Baddiel's Future Friend, which is a lovely sci-fi story set in 3020, and it promises all kinds of exciting action. And even though it's written by David Baddiel, the protagonist of the book is Rahul Agarwal, a genius inventor. How can 3020 not have an Indian genius inventor, I say, from the city of Bengaluru, perhaps, because this is where the IT, guys are. I don't know what futuristic adventure this is, but we'll read it and tell you shortly. But David Baddiel's Future Friend, which we would recommend for 9+ year olds. A fantasy novel called A Clock of Stars by Francesca Gibbons and illustrated by none other than Chris Riddell. And we know lots of children 10 plus love fantasy books, and this one, it's the story of a magical new world. And because there are so many of you adults watching us every week, we can't go away without the recommendation of a good book for adults. We haven't read this one. It pretty much, the none of the new arrivals have been read at the moment, but this just landed at our doorstep 2-3 days ago. The marvelous storyteller Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's The Last Queen. It's got high praise from Amitav Ghosh, from William Dalrymple, from Shabana Azmi, from The Wire, from the New York Times. Divakaruni Banerjee is really a compelling storyteller, and she really has these feisty women protagonists. Or even sometimes when you feel that they're not that feisty, how they influence the course and take the decisions for their own lives, basically. So The Last Queen, a brand new book for adults from Chitra Divakaruni Banerjee. Those were our new arrivals, folks, all up on Funky Rainbow's site. Quickly, just going to say hello to 2-3 more people before we say bye this Saturday morning. There's Preeta Dhanashekar, there's Satya Shrujan Reddy, Gayatri B. Mambra, Sham's niece, all of 19. So glad that you're watching the bazaar. I Teach, I Learn, Arpita Nath, Vishwanathan Subramaniam, Pia Kapoor, Shoini Mitra. How lovely that so many of you from Penguin watching us this morning. Moses Sia, Anuradha Kaul, Niranjan Bora Chetri, and Pika Nani, one of our favorite writers with some lovely books to her credit. Thank you so much for watching us at season 2, episode 1 of our book bazaar. People, if you're not traveling that much at the moment, the best way to travel is armchair traveling. Pick up any of the books that you think we've recommended today, or any others that you think will help you travel, at least in your heads for the moment. We'll see you next Saturday. Till then, bye bye, and keep reading.